Welcome to Edge Unscripted. Listen along for candid conversations with the Edge marketing team on a variety of subjects in the world of PR and marketing and other topics that have our attention. Let's go off script.
Welcome to Edge Unscripted, the podcast where we talk about what actually is working in marketing and PR in our industries and without all of the buzzword bingo. Today we are diving into a topic that sounds a little bit like jargon, but actually it matters a lot in the world that we live in, and it's omnichannel marketing. What it is, why it is not the same as being everywhere, and how AI can help you do it without hiring a 40-person team. How does that sound? So I have Jennifer Marsnik from my team with me, and she recently wrote an article that's titled Omnichannel Marketing, What It Is and Why It Matters for B2B. So Jennifer, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks, Amy. I'm excited to talk about omnichannel and maybe a little nervous. I'll be held accountable for my own advice. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, oh, no, we'll just delete the episode. No one will ever know. I'm just kidding. No, but no, I'm excited to share too. And so I know you and I have talked about this a lot over the last months or year. And so just to kind of get it in writing and put it a pin in the map in terms of where we're at today and how people can take advantage of this, I think it will be really valuable to our listeners. So you work a lot with B2B and professional service organizations, and Edge does as a whole. So what made you think like we really need to talk about omnichannel marketing right now versus just marketing full stop?
Well, a few reasons. I think, first of all, the buying journey for professional services has gotten so much more complex today than it ever used to be. Buyers are checking your website and they're reading your thought leadership and your LinkedIn presence. They're looking at ratings and referrals and watching webinars and going to events. And that's even before they answer your email. So in addition to that, a lot of firms have adopted more channels, but they've not adopted a more connected strategy in how they use them. So they say, for example, well, we're on LinkedIn and we go to conferences and we send some emails. Oh, and we have a website and maybe we just made some updates to it. So we're all good, right? But when you look at it from the buyer side, all those things are often telling slightly different stories. So it can feel really scattered. And even confusing sometimes. And last, but certainly not least, AI is making it easier than ever to produce more stuff, which can be good unless all you're doing is producing more disconnected stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like AI is giving people a giant microphone to a band that has not rehearsed. So you get louder, but you don't always get better. I mean, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, all my band friends, but no.
I was going to say, I'm having PTSD flashback to my daughter's 6th grade band concert.
Oh. How about kidding. Third grade recorders? No, let's not even go there. So the article mentions you do not just need more channels, you need them to work together.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the things that I really liked about the article was when you clearly, you draw a line between multi-channel and omni-channel, because we used to call it multi-channel. Now it's new, right? So can you walk us through that distinction, the way that you think about it?
Sure. I think multi-channel is basically kind of what I said before. We're using a lot of platforms. So you're on LinkedIn, you have an email newsletter, maybe you do a webinar here and there, and you show up at events. But each of those is often doing its own thing in isolation. A LinkedIn ad might be talking about innovation, and your email campaign might be pushing a webinar on a completely different topic. Your conference booth could be highlighting something else entirely. Omnichannel, on the other hand, is when all of those channels work together much more closely to move a prospect through a coherent story in kind of a more intentional way. So it's frequently used in B2C marketing, like by retailers with retargeting ads, and we're all familiar with these, right? where you see ads and follow-up outreach through several different channels, but where the messaging and offers are consistent or they're building on one another, right? Like you leave something in your shopping cart with a retailer and then you see an ad for it and maybe you get an email offering you a discount. It's that's really omnichannel. And in B2B marketing, it's similar. So for example, someone might download an ebook on, say, data privacy and AI. And the next thing they might see is a LinkedIn ad that reinforces that theme, then a follow-up email with a case study on privacy, and then maybe an invitation to a webinar that goes even deeper on that same challenge. So each touch point is building on the last one instead of starting over with whole different topic or whole different messaging or anything like that.
Yeah. So let me see if I got this right. So multi-channel marketing is like 5 different people talking all at once. And omni-channel is one person continuing the conversation across a variety of different rooms or a variety of different avenues, if you will.
Something like that, yeah. A multi-channel is kind of like all of your kids yelling "mom" from 3 different rooms. Where, maybe omni-channel is one of them walking in and saying, here's what I need and why. And then you're able to have a conversation and guide them through your thinking on things. So
yeah, you've crossed a new level of listening or getting people's attention when it changes from mom to Amy. When your kid starts calling you by your first name, you're like, mom's not working anymore. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully our marketing doesn't do that to people.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, same here.
So in B2B, with our professional audiences that we're helping our clients target day in and day out, that consistency is not just about being tidy. You need to make it a point, and you need to make it sound credible across all of these channels, right?
Absolutely. I think in these sectors that we work in regularly, buyers are understandably cautious. I mean, they always have been. And they're evaluating not just, can you do this, but can we trust you with high risk and high stakes work? Because that's the world that they work in. When they see a consistent professional story across multiple touch points, I think it really reinforces that trust that you're trying to build with them. When they see scattered or conflicting messages, it can raise doubts, even if the product or service is great.
Yeah, that's true. I was looking through the article again, and like one of the things that you cite is McKinsey, a stat that they put out that B2B buyers might use 10 or more channels when they're interacting with potential buyers. So that's a lot of places where people could accidentally, unintentionally confuse their audience. So what does that look like in a professional services industry specifically?
Well, I mean, it's pretty common. I think we have to assume that they're looking at us through all those different lenses. A prospective client they might start on your website. They might read a thought leadership article authored by somebody in your organization. They might check your LinkedIn page to see who works there, which of course, is its own whole channel of basic information about your company, but then also you're sharing any number of different kinds of messages in your LinkedIn posts. They see ratings or directories where you might have a profile listed. They're speaking with peers, asking for referrals. They might attend a webinar or see you at a conference, either exhibiting or maybe speaking on a panel. And they're getting follow-up emails from those events or from other things. So if what they see from all those different places feels aligned and consistent from place to place, your stock kind of goes up in their minds. Your brand feels more solid because it feels like, okay, this company knows who they are and who they serve. If every channel and every interaction feels like it's coming from a different brand, they may not recognize it's all coming from the same place, which is one problem. Or they may not even consciously say, I don't trust them. They just kind of quietly move on.
Yeah, like I can't imagine an instance where a potential client would email you and say, "Oh, your messaging was inconsistent. Therefore, we, they're not telling you what you're doing wrong. They're just literally moving on, just like you said."
Yeah, they just vanish, ghosted by buyers, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Nobody wants to be ghosted. It's not fun. So professional services dating, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here. It's just like you need to come across clear, consistent across all channels. Like otherwise you're going to get dumped before you even had the first date. I don't know. Oh, goodness. All right. So, and so you make a really good case here, Jennifer, about omnichannel and what it prevents that, that kind of messaging, that ad hoc here, there, whatever, inconsistent messaging. It is giving them, the omnichannel is giving them the professional touch, the relevance, the timing, where they are, where they're online, where they're, going to conferences, where they're going to gather their information. So let's get a little more practical to give our listeners some takeaways. I know you've already given them quite a few, but we can get even a little bit deeper. So you do outline 7 steps in the article, and we're not going to read them all here because you can go read the article and then pull them from our website. But I want to hit on a few that I think are especially important for our listeners. You start with mapping the buyer journey. So what does that look like in your mind?
Okay, so I think mapping the buyer journey is really about getting specific with your audience. And so you start by breaking down the various stages that they go through: problem identification, exploration, evaluation, decision making, and then your ongoing relationship. And then you ask, okay, what does our ideal client do at each of those stages and on which channels? So, for example, at the exploration stage, they might be reading white papers or browsing expert bios on your website or consuming your thought leadership. At the evaluation stage, maybe they start looking more closely at things like case studies and peer referrals, maybe even pricing. When they get to the decision-making stage, they're talking to references, they're even finalizing agreement scope and terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you sort of sketch all of that out, you can define your channels and your content to meet them where they actually are, not just maybe where you wish they were.
Yeah, that's so smart. So, and like I imagine the conversation where someone says, our buyers do not read white papers. And then you ask, well, when's the last time you produced one worth reading? It's just,
Well, I might make that suggestion a little softer, but essentially, yes.
sorry.
Or when was the last time you made it easy to find? That's another big one. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe it's there. They just can't find it.
yes. Sometimes you just have to put it right in front of them, which is fine too, right? So, okay, so you emphasize credible content like the white papers, thought leadership, byline articles, testimonials, case studies, outcomes, statistics, things like that. In our industries, the professional services industries, like what separates out content from content that actually moves a buyer, moves the needle for them?
Well, I think a couple of big things. First, specificity is really important. I think, are you naming real problems and real outcomes that they can associate with or identify as their own? Or are you just saying we're innovative and client-centric?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the second thing I think is proof. Are you backing claims with data or metrics or concrete examples? A good case study with measurable outcomes that feels relevant to the buyer's world can do a lot more than 10 generic blog posts that don't really tell that same story.
Mm-hmm.
In an omnichannel approach, you reuse that content intelligently and intentionally in webinars, in an email series, in social posts, and sales conversations. So instead of reinventing the wheel for every channel, you've got that same thing that's woven through everything you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So repurposing is your friend. And
we say it all the time.
right. And as long as that's relevant in today's market, right? Nothing from 10 years ago or whatever else, but because things change really fast. But as we like to say, if you are tired of it, your market, excuse me, is probably just getting used to it, right? And they're just starting to notice it. So us marketers have to be patient with the industry.
Oh my gosh,
Which sometimes is
exactly.
a hard thing to do.
This can be a
they
hard
have.
concept for some people, but marketer fatigue is not the same as audience fatigue. It's
Yeah.
exactly what you said. By the time we're getting tired of it, your audience is just starting to notice it. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point for people to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard once, and I don't know if this is true, but when the accounts payable person in your company is sick of paying for the same ad, then you know it's time to move time to move on. Oh my
That's a
goodness.
good metric. I hadn't
Right?
heard that one, but you're
Right?
probably right. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's merit there.
Right. So, okay. So you also highlight something that feels almost old-fashioned, but in a good way, which is responsiveness and personalization. All these things can be made easier with AI.
Yeah, I think even with all the channels and all the tools at our disposal, people still remember who got back to them quickly and who made them feel like more than a lead in the CRM, right? Small
Yeah.
gestures still really matter, like referencing the content that they've already consumed or tailoring follow-ups to their industry or specific situation.
Okay. Okay. Wait. I do get kind of creeped out though, like when if I go read an article or something it was from an email that I received, and I clicked on the link to go read the article because it was interesting to me. But then, like a day later, I saw you were reading our. I personally, I'm not. I get a little bit creeped out by that. It's kind of like Alexa telling me, what's on my grocery list or something. It's just kind of
It
like,
is, it's a little big brother, right? It's a little
yeah,
creepy. And I think you have to find the right balance to
yeah,
making people feel like you're paying attention to them, that you're hearing them, that you're understanding
yeah.
their pain points or their interests or whatever it is without stalking.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of
There's a
crossing
crafty
that
way of
line.
doing it that is appropriate, I think,
Yeah.
So I don't know. You said that, and I'm like, oh, I remember that one time, and it just kind of creeped me out. So, anyways,
Well, but I think you bring up a good point, and I
yeah,
think this is part of with Omnichannel is not an excuse to just automate everything into coldness or where it becomes, so hyper personalized that it does get that creepy feel. Really, it's a structure that lets you be more human where it counts because the basics are already handled, if that makes sense.
yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you cannot replace that human touch or just that human interaction for sure. So, yeah, so I think, like thinking about AI in the big picture, how it fits in, it provides tools that take care of the plumbing so that humans
Mhm.
can do the relationship part.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, kind of getting down toward the end a little bit, but you also call out like a referral and review channels and LinkedIn recommendations, rating sites, peer reviews, awards, things like that. So how do those fit into the Omni channel?
Well, I see them as pretty critical, actually, especially in the market segments that we serve, like legal and accounting, because buyers might get your name from a directory or a rating site or a colleague's recommendation. And in an omni-channel approach, those proof points are not just out there randomly. So you can pull them into your website, your email nurture, your social posts, your proposals, kind of everything. So they become part of a consistent story of people like you trust us and here's evidence. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a way to really use those to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when it comes to like CRMs and marketing automation and integration for a firm or a company that isn't a giant excuse me enterprise, what's like the minimum viable version of integrated systems to even attempt an omni-channel campaign?
Well, I think it's important to note you really don't have to have a giant marketing tech stack. At
Yeah.
minimum, I think you want a CRM, even a basic one, but that can track contact history and content engagement so you know what they are looking at. Some form of email or marketing automation so you can trigger relevant follow-ups. And of course, a website and event or webinar tools that feed into that same system. Because the goal is that no one falls through the cracks because, LinkedIn clicks live in one place and email clicks live somewhere else, and webinar attendees are in a spreadsheet on someone's desktop.
Well, yeah, we've all seen the webinar spreadsheet that never gets put into anything. It's
Oh my goodness.
How many times have you heard that? Initial
That
calls to
is
clients were like, come on.
I know. Or, not even a webinar in person. You meet people in person, that's even worse. And I think that is all just the multi-channel version of a junk drawer, right? You're just doing all the things and they go nowhere, which is kind of the worst, right? No ROI there. Right?
Junk drawers are not allowed. Not in my
No
house, not in my marketing plan. All right. So you also in your article include professional standards and compliance. So it's important to our audience. So how does that or those things intersect with the omnichannel?
Well, I think in professional services, everything has to be ethical and compliant and certainly respectful of privacy and confidentiality.
Yeah.
So as you branch into more channels, you just really have to make sure that each channel is secure for starters, but also that you're following any current regulations that you might be subject to, like GDPR, if that's relevant to you, anything else. I know that there's a lot of state level privacy laws now that are going into effect. So it's important to know what those are and pay attention to them. Align with any local bar rules or accounting board guidelines that might impact the space in which you work. And then, of course, avoid any misleading promises. So omnichannel doesn't mean say more faster. It means say the right things consistently and in compliant ways.
And especially in our industries, especially legal, like where words really do matter, the fastest way to ruin a campaign strategy or even, a relationship or a lead is to get yourself, in front of a disciplinary committee. I mean, that would not,
right? Oh, goodness.
That would not, let's not do
Not
that.
good.
All right. So you close with measurement, and measurement, especially in the world of PR, it can be a little bit tricky, but thank goodness for analytics and web and whatever, it has gotten easier. So what should companies and firms be paying attention to beyond like the clicks and the opens?
I think this is one area where whether you're just doing multi-channel or omni-channel marketing, I think there's a lot of overlap in my answer to this, because I think it is a good question. Measurement is really important. You can look at things like lead sources by channel, content versus referrals versus webinars versus direct outreach, conversion rates at different stages, client lifetime value, and things like retention versus churn rates. Which channels work best for which practice areas and client sizes. That's a lot of data to capture, but really the point is to see which combinations of channels and messages actually move buyers. So you can double down on what's working and just kind of retire what's not. It's important to try new things, but you shouldn't keep doing them if they're not producing results.
Yeah, absolutely. And that my mind just goes right to AI and how AI is so powerful in terms of looking at those results, analyzing them, and coming back to you with feedback. So kind of circling back to the topic of AI, because that's part of your article as well. So you make the point that AI can make omnichannel marketing possible without, a big budget, a big team. So how are you actually seeing this play out?
Well, I think AI can really help in a few practical ways. First of all, with what we talked about earlier in repurposing content. So say you develop a white paper, an ebook, something really substantive. AI can help you turn that into a webinar outline, into a blog series, into social posts.
What do you think we're doing here?
Email copy, right. Repurposing the idea and the thought leadership. It's, don't reinvent the wheel. AI can also help with drafting first passes, right? Your rough drafts of things, getting a starting point for not just big pieces of content, but emails and landing pages and summaries, and then leveraging your human expertise to refine those things. But AI can also help you personalize at scale, because that can be tricky. That personalization element could be cumbersome if you're doing all of that manually. But AI can help suggest different angles or snippets for different industries or roles that make them not necessarily more personal, like, hey, Amy, but relevant to your industry and talk to you about the world in which you live. So the danger, like we said earlier, is when people use AI just to produce more random content. And I hate to say we do see that out there, but the opportunity is using AI to execute a clear omni-channel strategy, I would say, more efficiently.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you said it before, I'll say it again, more is not always better. So
More is just more
precision,
sometimes.
precision. All right. So thinking, holistically, like the order of how you do things really does matter. Like you start with your strategy and then AI is second. Not let us ask the robot what to do, right?
Oh, yeah. Don't let the robot define your brand. If you're asking AI to just completely develop your brand and your strategy, then you've probably skipped a couple important steps.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so let us imagine someone listening who is a leading, a lead in their marketing department or a lead in their business development and maybe a mid-size, smaller entity. And maybe they're thinking like, this all sounds great, but I don't have a huge team to lean on. I don't have a huge budget to pull from. So what are some of the first steps or the low stress starting points that you would recommend for omnichannel marketing?
Well, I would say some of the things we talked about earlier. I think I would start with mapping a buyer journey. You probably have multiple audiences or market segments that you target. Don't try to do them all at once. Just pick one key segment and sketch out what they do today. Then choose 2 to 3 channels that you already use and just ask yourself, how could we make all of these tell a more consistent story over, say, the next quarter? Give yourself a period of time, make it sort of a concrete from a timing standpoint, and then pick one content asset to repurpose sort of omni-channel style, right? And it was exactly what we talked about earlier. Maybe you start with a strong case study or a white paper, and here's where you can use AI then and your team, because you need the expertise of your team, to turn it into a webinar or maybe even a CLE, a short email series or a LinkedIn post or a series of LinkedIn posts, and also sales enablement pieces, right? Tie it all together. Start there instead of launching 5 new channels at once or going after 5 different segments at once. Start with just one. And when I say team, that might just be you, or it might be you and one other person, but it still can be manageable when you start small and get a strategy like that, get one example or one case study under your belt. And once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes much more intuitive and easier to implement across a wider plane.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really like that idea, just to start with one thing, one quarter, a few channels, and just grow from there. So, all right. So any final thoughts on why omnichannel matters, and just anything specific that one more time you just want to get across in this?
I think I frame it in the world in which we work every day, Amy. And I think professional services marketing is just so much about building trust over time. And this is something that we talk about a lot, especially these days, right? And that trust signals and everything we're trying to do with helping our clients build credibility. It's so important in the world of AI and just with everything we've talked about. So I think that an omni-channel strategy really helps you present a steady and credible story, especially to those cautious buyers who are making pretty big decisions, right? And AI just helps you do more of that, helps you do all of that more efficiently, so you don't need a huge team to execute, even if you have a small company.
No, I love that. The perfect way to land it. So Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on this today. Now your article will be down in the comments or in the post, or we'll have links to it everywhere. So thank you for going through the work of helping just improve people's marketing through omnichannel, the omnichannel concept. So thank you for that. We will have a link to it in the show notes, etc. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, okay, our channels are definitely multi-channel, not omni-channel, like let's talk about it. I'd be happy to talk about it with you more, help you define a strategy, look at different technologies to help you get things more precise and together. So yeah, we would love to help out. So Jen, thanks again. And I hope you join me again on one of these soon.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. It was fun. I think I'm going to be hearing my third grader's recorder in my ear. Well, she's not in third grade anymore, but
no, that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid that.
That was a funny memory. So thanks.
Yeah. Oh, the screeching. Anyways, we don't need that. So, all right. Well, thanks again. And everybody, reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
This has been Edge Unscripted. We appreciate you joining us and hope you enjoyed the conversation. Connect with us by leaving a comment and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.